Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of big finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week, and today on the 12th of November... No, not November, 12th of January, 2019. We are starting the third of the first series of Fourth Doctor Adventures. The first and only for this series, pure historical. John Dorney's The Wrath of the Iceni. Now, going in to part one, I don't really actually know about Boudica as a historical figure, so I'm not actually going to be able to comment too much on the actual history. That's just not my area of expertise. When I covered, my schooling's covered a bit of European history, but it only went as far back as the Renaissance. So really pre-Renaissance. My history is a bit more spotty, and this is very pre-Renaissance. This is Roman Empire, I believe. But John Dorney automatically his writing just captures this woman, Boudica, as a very sympathetic character, which is, of course, important to start with. You need to be able to have a character who you can at least empathize with, especially when they're going up against something as big as, well, Rome. Rome is was a big empire, very, very scary empire for anyone really to go up against, because, well, if you lost against the Roman Empire, you would be dead. The Roman Empire was an empire that was able to crush its enemies very, very easily, honestly, because it was so big and powerful, and it didn't take a lot to kill people. And it knew how to get people in their ranks and, assimilate into Rome. But what's interesting is John Dorney automatically really has Boudica and Leela really connect. And there's this air throughout the first episode of this story that Leela could be leaving here. Now, of course, we know this is an audio produced several years after Leela's events at the television show. But if you didn't know that and were just watching in order as if they were all, made at this time, you could easily think that this was Leela's exit. This is a very potential exit for Leela because she, she comes to terms with the idea that Boudica might, the saving Boudica might help. And Boudica is, and the Doctor obviously knows what happens with Boudica, that Boudica, can't really win. She just can't. The Roman Empire still has to, be Rome. You can't just change that. You can't change history, which is something that Leela, as of yet, really hasn't been able to come to terms to. This is the first time she's been in a just historical event where she's wanted to change things, because of course the Doctor already knows this is how this is how history is supposed to go. This is how it has to be. Which is, really, really harsh. A really, a really, dark sort of story of what happens. And the Doctor sort of has to, pretends to be the fool. And I think Tom Baker himself gives an amazing performance in this episode. He's full of this passion of, sadness that, hey, this savage that he's been trying to teach may be saying goodbye here. It may be time for her to leave him. And I think that is probably one of the best aspects of the story, just because it really gets Tom Baker as a person and a character down. His Doctor, saying goodbye. He keeps moving on because he's a traveler, in his TARDIS, and he travels a very long time. He has, a really a long amount of, a long amount of, just time spent on saying goodbye. And that is it's very, very poignant. It also again proves that in this format still, pure historicals can work. Pure historicals are are amazing pieces of just just of storytelling, where you can have them, have just the story be based on, hey, we're going to have fun with this historical figure, and we're going to we're going to use the historical figure as a backdrop for the rest of our story. Like, we aren't, which I think just is an amazing way of doing things. It does a good job of having of giving us something for the story. It makes the story feel, not, I don't want to say unique, but it makes it feel very um feel very alive. Like, this is the story we are going with. um it's not some dark and gloomy thing. It's a living story, a story of history. It's a story of history, and it's a story of it's a story where characters do come in and out. So that being said, I'm going to give the first part of Wrath of the Iceni a perfect 10 out of 10. It is the 13th of January 2019, and I just finished listening to part 2 of The Wrath of the Iceni. Part 2 continues to be a story all about, I guess you could describe it as how Leela's trust in the Doctor shifts from what it initially is to what it becomes later on. She realize, what's interesting is that she starts to see the world much closer to what it actually is. This world of Boudica, she sees Boudica not as a fully good person. Yeah, she's a very powerful person and a powerful woman and leader of an army and able to win quite a lot of battles. But one of the biggest problems with Boudica as a person is that she's willing to go to any lengths for said, for said goals. She wants to see the world she wants to see she wants to see the world as a as this as with her in power. She wants to defeat the Romans for noble reasons. Her own daughters were violated in a very powerful way. It's not stated, but it's made explicit. It's something that's very dark, and something that I think something that I think the story does an excellent job at. John Dorney really works well with the writing, trying to give, not just giving Leela, reason to care, but a real sense that, yes, this is, why she should care. Leela wants to help, and Leela even gets praised for it, until it all sort of starts to go wrong. It doesn't really go, it goes wrong for Leela, mainly in that when Leela, one thing about Leela's character is that she is fiercely loyal to the Doctor. There's this, and this is testing the relationship that the Doctor and Leela have, sure, but still at the end of the day, the Doctor cares about Leela. they very much care about each other, and they don't want to see each other in pain. Leela has learned about morality. This isn't this is a story really about how Leela is still a moral character, even though she heals people. A very dark aspect of her character is that she's the savage who kills people, but even with that, she doesn't actually kill anyone. She still finds a way. She doesn't kill innocents. It's something that, which is something that Boudica does. I mean, Boudica goes to torture, and that's just something that Leela, her mind just draws back, like, wait, you torture these people? Why would you do that? That makes no sense. It's this dark image of the characters being tortured. This is a woman who doesn't have that morality of and it gets very dark in places, and I think it's worthy to note just how dark it gets. Perhaps the ending is a bit on a side of just sort of not really being the best, only because it's like the doctor ends up talking and basically saying, oh, you get defeated, this is how you get defeated, but that sort of undoes the current when it's like he's lying about history. It feels like that changing history could have easily been where this story would lead if, say, if it was 4 parts, but being only 2 parts, they have to stop it essentially at the point where you'd be getting a part 2 cliffhanger. Again, that's going to be a recurring theme when we cover the Fourth Doctor adventures and stories that are only 2 parts, is that there isn't always enough time to flesh out the ideas and give us some good old-fashioned storytelling, which they don't. It's very sad, but they don't give us a lot of good storytelling. Like, it's a story that ends after, really, it's about just as it starts to get going. I've not to say The Wrath of the Iceni Part 2 is bad. It's amazing. Like, Louise Jameson's performance and Tom Baker's performance alone is enough to make you want to buy this one. They both are giving it their all. They're giving excellent portrayals of the characters, and they really are working together to make each character work, and both characters have a solid foundation. Oddly enough, this is probably the best of the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 1, that just period in general. It's one of the best Fourth Doctor. It's really good. It's one that you should definitely at least give one listen. Even if you wanted to choose just one from this current season that I'm looking at, choose this one. It's been the best, and it does a lot of fun character stuff. It knows how to do a plot generally with characters, even if doing a plot with characters means that they sort of only have a full hour to work with, and not a full, and not as much to work with, which is a shame, because again, this one could have been really solid, much better, but The Wrath of the Iceni, overall, Part 2, is, it's good. It deserves a lot of praise, and I believe it gets a lot of praise. It gets a decent amount of praise from, the critics, and it really, really deserves it. Just slightly, it's just slightly, marred by a bad ending. So I'm going to give The Wrath of the Iceni Part 2 a 9 out of 10. That being said, we average up the 2 episodes to give The Wrath of the Iceni a final score of 9.5 out of 10. Thank everybody for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you next time when we continue our look at the first season of the Fourth Doctor Adventures with the penultimate story, Energy of the Daleks.